Okay, so I'm actually going to go through the entire chapter of Deuteronomy, chapter 6. This is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 1. Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which the Lord your God, and I'm reading it as is written, to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go to possess it. Verse 2, that thou mightest fear the Lord thy God, to keep all his statutes and his commandments which I command thee, thou and thy son and thy son's son, all the days of thy life, and that thy days be prolonged. 3, hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Lord God of thy fathers have promised thee, in the land that floweth with milk and honey. 4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. 5, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. 6, and these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. 7, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. 8, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. 9, and thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house, and on thy gates. And 10, it shall be, when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land which he sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not. 11, and houses full of all good things which thou fillest not, and wells digged which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees which thou plantest not. When thou shalt have eaten and be full, then beware, lest thou forget the Lord which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. 13, thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, and serve him, and shalt swear by his name. 14, ye shall not go after other gods, of the gods of the people which are round about you. 15, for the Lord thy God is a jealous God among you, lest the anger of the Lord thy God be kindled against thee, and destroy thee from off the face of the earth. 16, ye shall not tempt the Lord your God, as ye tempted him in Massah. 17, you shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his testimonies and his statutes which he hath commanded thee. And thou shalt do that which is right and good in the sight of the Lord, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest go in and possess the good land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers. 19, to cast out all thine enemies from before thee, as the Lord hath spoken. And when the son asketh thee in time to come, saying, what mean the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments which the Lord our God hath commanded you? Then thou shalt say unto thy son, we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of the land, out of Egypt, with a mighty hand. And the Lord showed signs and wonders great and sore upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. And he brought us out from thence, that he might bring us in, to give us the land which he sware unto our fathers. The most important part is the point that I want to get to. 24, and the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. 25, and it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God, as he hath commanded us. Okay, and so now we're going to jump to chapter 28, Deuteronomy 28, and I'm gonna go to verse 1, Deuteronomy 21, and I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Deuteronomy 28 and 1, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And I'll go to 2, and verse 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Now I'm going to jump to verse 15. Verse 15, Deuteronomy 28:15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And I'm just gonna go to, let's see, I'm gonna go to Deuteronomy 28 and 46. Actually, I'm gonna go to 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. 46. Very important verse 46 is here. Deuteronomy 28 and 46. And they shall be upon thee. What? The curses. 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. So this also ties into, as we went to Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6, when it says it will be upon thy seed, because like in Hosea 4 and 6, it says he shall forget your children. That's your seed. That's your offspring, your children. So when you're not blessed by the Most High, clearly you see, when you go through Deuteronomy 28 chapter, you see all the curses. And basically, you're on the bottom. And so in these conditions, you take to drugs and alcohol to try to ease the pain of all the sorrows that come with not being blessed. There's really no other way to put that. So that's why it's important, and that forever pretty much means until the end of this world, when Christ returns and makes his second coming. That's why at this point he came as a man. That is really true love, that the Father prepared a body for him. And a lot of people, I don't want to go too off subject, but this is very important. They think that the law itself is done away with, but there is a particular part of the law that was fulfilled, that was completed when the Messiah came and gave his life. He was the ultimate sacrifice. That's why you read in Hebrews 10 and you read in Psalms 40 also is a precept to that. Also, I think it's Psalms 52, I believe, also, but it's talking about that the Messiah was the ultimate sacrifice, because the blood of goats and animals, and the clean animals, is not what the Most High wanted from us. That is not what he required. He required us to, this was the covenant. The covenant was for our people to keep the commandments, to keep the laws, follow his ordinances, not the ordinances and feast days and things of the nations, and that's why it tells you in Corinthians, the things of the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice unto idols. All right, that's why it tells you in Jeremiah 10, don't learn the way of the heathen, because their customs and doings are vain, because they worship the hosts of heaven, and they worship idols, and these are all things that the Most High commanded us, his people, not to do, because their doings are vain. So because we followed them and did not do, our forefathers did not do what he said to do, then when you read in Deuteronomy, he put us on the bottom. He put us under these nations. And so it's very hard to live in a world where you're treated unjustly, because these people that were never given these laws on how to deal righteously are ruling over you. That's why it tells you in Leviticus and Deuteronomy 28 that those that hate you shall rule over you. All right, and when you read in the scriptures, a lot of times that hate, it means that they don't deal with you like that. They don't fool with you. There's a big difference between hate and abhorring something or something being abominable to the Most High. But hate means that you don't deal with someone like that. They're not for you. They're your enemy. And that's something else that people take out of context, your enemy. That simply means someone who's adverse to you. They are not for your turn. They're not for you. They're against you. Well, and understand that our people and the Most High, when he tells you, he has enemies. Okay? And because you're his people, you do too. And when somebody's adverse or against you, the other nations like to do the things that they like to do. All right, they don't want to, keeping the law, statute, commandments of our God is not their custom. It just, the point is though, that's why our people are so depressed, because they're oppressed. They're not in their land. We've lost our culture. We've lost our heritage. And, we're under people who are not for our cause. They're not for our turn. And we can't prosper. That's why you also, when you read in Leviticus 26, okay, the heaven above you shall be iron, or is it brass, and beneath you a brass, iron and brass. You're going to be basically caged in. You're not going to be allowed to really prosper. Now, some of our people prosper, but in reality, they prosper under different cultures. Like they don't know who they are, but they certainly don't prosper keeping the commands of their God and being who they are. So it's very important. So let's get into how to fix something, and let's get into who we should seek our help from. Who is our counselor? Who should we go to for counsel? What should we turn to help ourselves?